to start with, I think it's good to realize that this process has been a process which we started last year. The platforms Facebook, Google, Mozilla, Twitter have committed to parts of the code of practices, and they have been allowed little time to implement and to come up with progress and show. That was yesterday, to show what they've done so far. With that in mind, I think that any progress thus far is very encouraging, but I do agree with Commissioner King that a lot more needs to be done.
I mean, of course, the big concern going into May's European parliamentary elections is potential influence, particularly by the Russians. Russian-backed campaigns could boost support for pro-Moscow political parties. What would you suggest to try to combat that? Are there ways that can be put in place? The European Commission lists a few, but in areas it's quite vague.
Yes, well, I think the whole question about around political advertising, for instance, is one that needs to be looked at. I think that a lot of transparency measures need to be put in place to show where funding for political campaigning comes from. And in that respect, it is encouraging that the Code of Practice does address this. I think accountability.
How would that look? Would that be would that be essentially you'd need to show where any advert that was online would need to essentially say underneath funded by X?
That would be a possibility. Yes. Exactly.
All right. There's something else. There's a concern that from some quarters regarding the European parliamentary elections that new rules might make it harder particularly for pro-European parties running in the European parliamentary elections to get their adverts out, especially in countries like Hungary and Poland, where often they're not registered, because the rules would mean that you would need to be registered as a political party in order to be able to have your adverts okayed. Do you share those concerns?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, anything that undermines the sort of the democratic process is of concern, and this is why this issue is so complicated, because there comes a point at which one needs to make an assessment as to what is sort of a legitimate party, or what is a legitimate piece of information, of content, and what is not. And this is where there's a very thin line between basically giving the platforms the tools to help facilitate the democratic process and giving them the powers to disrupt it.